Growing up, I was always attracted to building things out of other parts or scrap wood. Uh, so those experiences really formed my kind of like natural inclination, putting objects together, being creative with design in a more like organic, self-guided way. To Phoenix, so I originally wasn't born in Arizona, but being from Sonora, Mexico, that's where I was born. It being the same natural region, the Sonoran Desert, I've always felt grounded in this place. So by doing work with historic preservation in Phoenix, particularly with Levine Machine, who has always, for many years, done work with the historic warehouse district and other buildings in town. I gained a lot of insight and experience with the city and some other municipal development. I believe that in recent years, my core values have become simpler, but if I were to sum it up, my core values are more related to natural creativity and finding inspiration in natural systems and methodologies that are not necessarily highly intellectual. They are more top bottom. They're more organic. They unfold themselves. So I have a passion for that type of design method or creation method, if you will. Something that I really like about Phoenix is the fact that there's a lot of diversity of cultures. Sometimes people have, depending on where you live in the area, in the valley, they might have an impression that is only Mexican American or very Hispanic and Latino, which in part is true. But I like that once you start to see other places in town and move around in the valley, you discover that it's highly diverse and adds a lot of interesting things to the city in terms of social life, opportunity, infrastructure, and just cultural events in general, right? They all happen throughout the year. You just have to go find them. I've been involved in work with buildings, but uh, more so on the historic preservation and restoration industry, where in the work with the Bean Machine, for example, I've managed to combine the old and the new by studying these buildings very intimately, but also bringing in technology like 3D scanning and generating very accurate as-built, and that then helps pursue funding or other city permits. And so that's one of the things. And very early on, when I moved to Phoenix, I also got involved with design teaching first with Mexico actually. So I was doing it online. Then when I built enough experience, that allowed me to also gain an opportunity to teach at ASU and continue to be involved in the design and architecture fields. And more recently, I've gotten into projects that have to do with community engagement and outreach for major developments that happen in the city, like South Phoenix 3rd Street Bridge, where I am involved with the engineers building the bridge, but I'm involved as an architect that engages the community and then relays the information to the design team so that they can build a more appropriate infrastructure that acknowledges the different ethnicities and cultures. Being able to collaborate with simply, civilians of all different ages and walks of life, that helps me form not only my own impressions and insights, but also figure out ways to generate the narratives to discuss with the professionals and people that are in charge of these projects. And other ways, obviously, go back being in the academic field, talking to younger minds, trying to generate all sorts of activities or teaching methods to kind of like pass on that torch. I always looked at work that had a lot to do with place specificity with very sustainable practices. One of the examples that comes to mind would be Tropo Architects. They are originally from Australia, and that's a type of architecture that is very bioclimatically appropriate and responsive. So I always like that. And then, I started looking into other more high-tech examples like Japanese firm or architect Toyo Ito. Those would be just a couple of names to mention. There could be so many, right? Or to always go back to the things that you were doing, perhaps when you were very young, when you were a kid. If you're able to reminisce and kind of travel back to those things you were doing before you had a label in mind, find a way to kind of like crack the code and bring that back and incorporate it into your work, then I think that really can fuel your creativity and more than anything, being at peace with the work you do.